Good evening and welcome to the Gothic Bohemian Salon. This is my Gothic Life, Part 4. I'm going to break my timeline and talk to you, as I said that I would, about my feelings and experience of Goth, rather than just going over a history, like dates and times and when one thing happened and another thing happened. I wanted to try to get across to you the way that it felt in the beginning, the mysteriousness and magic of it. My own personal story has some mystery and magic in it. I was very interested in the vampire mythos from a fairly early age on, because of the films that my mother and I watched, and also from reading the things that I was reading at the time. And that combined with the discovery of a book called Dreamers of Decadence, which was a book about symbolist art and poetry, changed my life and inspired me to create a cycle of poetry called Theosomorphia. I should also credit reading Interview with a Vampire, A Dream of Dracula, and The Delicate Dependency for inspiration as well for the piece. It's a poetry cycle, it's a series of poems, it's a play, it's been performed in many different ways in several different types of venues with either just myself alone or myself and others, with taped music, with live music, with the crazy guitar playing, with no sound except for my voice, with all five senses being stimulated, with incense burning and at the same time, and in conjunction with the showing of some rather beautiful silent films. And it was the main thrust of my artistic life at one point, from about 1982, to, I'd say, somewhere around 1988, maybe a bit longer. The last incarnation, actually no, I did perform it a couple more times. I performed it before London After Midnight at a Halloween show. I did it at the Climate Theatre as part of a Halloween show, I think. And that was later. I don't remember exactly when that was. But it was a major part of my life for quite a long time. The idea of a vampire mixed in my mind with the sibyls of the ancient world, the prophetesses who would sit on a three-legged stool above a chasm, which opened down into the depths, and I guess probably connected to some kind of volcanic activity, because they would throw bay leaves down into the cavity, and the smoke would rise up, and they would have visions, and they would speak in tongues, and their whatever that they said was inscribed on leaves, literal leaves, I believe, and arranged, this is the legend anyway, arranged very carefully at the mouth of the cave, and they were supposed to be prophecies, and later they were bound into books, the 9 books of the Sibyl, and presented to King Solomon, I believe, who refused them, refused to buy them, whereupon they destroyed 3 of them, and then they offered the remaining 6 at the same price, and he refused again, and they destroyed 3 more, and finally coming to his senses, he bought the last 3, and of course they foretold the history of the world, so he was an idiot. But the legend of the Sibyl and the idea of a vampire who could have been a Sibyl came together because there's a legend that a Sibyl was granted a wish by one of the gods, and she asked to be immortal, but she neglected to ask to be young, so she ended up living forever, but shriveling up into a being so small that she was able to be put into a jar and hung on a tree, and she would say her prophecies, and just say, "I wish I could die," or something like that. And there were supposed to be 9 Sibyls. 9 is a very important number to me, for various personal reasons, and it just all came together as a creative piece for me. So for several years I performed it in these different incarnations, and it was the center of my work for a while. So why am I mentioning all this? Well, this is part of what I did in the goth scene in the very early days, was this piece, and so I was kind of known as a poet. One thing that is neglected to be talked about these days, it seems, is how important poetry was to goth in the very beginning and even later. If you look at any of the Gothic magazines, for example, maybe not now, but in the past, it was always about literature and poetry. There was always poetry in them. Maybe not great poetry, but definitely poetry. People definitely read poetry, but they wrote it as well, and it was a very, very important part of the whole scene, which is neglected to be mentioned now. And there were several performers in Los Angeles who did poetry, like I did, various subject matter, but even people like Exene would do, I think, would do poetry readings and things, so reading Anne Rice in the early 80s was rather early, before it was as huge as it got, and there was such a wonderful air of mystery and magic at the clubs, the early clubs, that you could easily create an aura of mystery and mysteriousness and stuff around yourself. And there was a couple points in my Gothic life where there were people who actually did think that I could maybe be a vampire, a real vampire, which may seem laughable now, but at the time, I guess, the Hunger, the film The Hunger had just come out. Of course, it opens with that wonderful Bela Lugosi's dead montage. If I'm going to hear that song, I want to hear it while watching that montage personally, because it's so wonderfully done. Then, of course, Interview with the Vampire had come out and was sort of starting to get a little bit known. The Gothic thing was so new that people were, fascinated by it. It was fairly easy to become a bit of a star in this scene, and have people really, wonder about you and kind of put you up on a bit of a pedestal and just wonder about you, let's just put it that way. But to me, I always wanted to gather around me those people who felt the mystery and magic of the darker side of things, who could appreciate really evocative poetry, particularly the symbolists. Symbolist poetry is really beautiful and quite Gothic in nature, very evocative. Theosomorphia has a lot of symbolist poetry in it. Whole sections were borrowed from the book Dreamers of Decadence, just right out of the book, and incorporated into it. It just fit so well. It sort of wrote itself, and I worked it into my own writing. It's so hard to get across the feeling. I don't know how to do it. But it's something that seems to be completely lacking nowadays, and I don't know if that's true or not, but it does seem to be completely lacking. But there's kind of this cutesy vibe sometimes going on, about spooky things and, Halloween and, all that kind of stuff, and that's great, I don't mind that. But we used to enjoy cemeteries because of their pathos as well as their beauty and history and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, we didn't sit around and, be depressed together or anything like that. But we certainly appreciated the dark and mysterious in a way that I think is kind of lacking nowadays. Everybody's so jaded now. Things were fresh and new, and still, you could still believe that somebody was a real vampire. And that's totally missing now, of course. You drink absinthe and go into this opaline dream, and you could get together with people and watch these beautiful silent films and read your poetry to each other and have a really lovely evening, sipping dark red wine and just socializing with people who felt similarly to the way that you did. And we used to have a weekly get-together called the Wake World, where we did just that. We used to rent these silent films on 16mm film and show them in our house. Things like The Fall of the House of Usher and other early silent horror and other silent films. The beauty of silent film really informed the way that people looked and dressed too. That was a big thing. So I just wanted to kind of explain that, and I know it's kind of going off track from the history, but I wanted, besides just spouting off the history in a rote manner, I wanted to actually talk about what it means to me to be Gothic and to have been there at the beginning and what that was like, at least for me. I can't speak for anyone else. My memories and recollections of when things happened exactly probably isn't perfect at all. I'm trying my best to be as truthful, honest, and open as possible with you. And I'm trying not to hold anything back as well. So I'm going to be reading you some Theosomorphia, and I hope that you appreciate it. And that'll be coming in another video. So thank you so much for joining me tonight for the Gothic Bohemian Salon. Good night.